Great. Yeah. Yeah. How's? Sorry?
Everything we say will be recorded.
Okay, I won't say anything incriminating then. We'll talk about my, yeah.
Go back to code. Well, there's another, it's like, what's the, there's an old-fashioned word, yeah, quadratic.
Hey, how are you? Okay, so I'm just going to basically cover automorphisms of K3s, a lot of lattice theory, and I was thinking I was going to just mention some stuff about elliptic vibrations.
Okay.
But really what I want to do is just talk about sort of how lattices...
Okay, are you saying anything lattice polarization?
I can put the definition
No,
if it's
don't change
good.
anything.
But...
Just I want to make sure we don't overlap.
Okay, yeah, no, okay.
Anyway, I'll see.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we're recording right now. I think both. Yeah.
Sure, do when you got time. Are you going to say anything about that, or do you know that? Maybe. Okay, I'll think that.
Well, no, actually, probably not. Since I think everything I'm going to say is in the paper we're working on. So.
Too late, I've written the title.
Okay, so the last stage of concentrate plugin course. The first speaker is Andrew Harder, Lattice theory and case research.
Oh, I got the title right. I'm really happy about that. Same in my notes as it was there, which means this is kind of my natural mode. So I guess today I'm going to talk about just stuff that's in the title. I want to give, first of all, kind of an introduction to lattice theory, or introduction to relevant lattice theory. And after this, I want to sort of show how we can use lattice theory or relevant lattice theory to sort of prove results about K3 surfaces. So, okay, prove geometric results. K3 surfaces. So using lattice theory, so specifically the stuff that I want to go through is stuff about automorphisms of K3s. So it's non-symplectic. For those who know what that means. And if time permits, I'll talk about elliptic vibrations. Probably in the, can you guys read the stuff at the bottom here? Is that too low? That's good, okay. Okay, so, I mean, all the lattice theory I'm going to talk about is basically either due to Niculin or can be found in his papers. So he wrote a bunch of papers basically in the 80s using pretty much the strong Torelli theorem and sort of other results in the moduli of K3 surfaces to basically classify automorphisms of K3s and do a whole bunch of other sort of nice things. But I'm going to focus on part of it today. So to start with lattice theory, so lattices. And by lattices, I'll tell you what I mean by this. So just add some adjectives. So integral, and so what else do I want? I probably want even as well. So I'll explain what this is. So definitions. So, I mean, by a lattice, and I might be abusing notation here, but a lattice is a pair, so L and B, where L is a free abelian group of finite rank. Finite rank. And B is a map from L across L to Z, which is bilinear symmetric and non-degenerate. Okay, so we say that so B is even if for all U in L, so B U U is congruent to 0 mod 2, i.e. it's even. And we say that, so for a basis, U1 to UN of L, we can write, so this matrix, which I'll call ML for now. So this is the matrix whose entries are B, UI, UJ. So these are just, you know, the bilinear form on these things. This is called the Gram matrix of L. It's called, obviously this depends on the basis I chose. The Gram matrix of L. So often I'll just express matrices or lattices in terms of the Gram matrix, but you know it's sort of up to choosing a basis. So this is I. So the discriminant of L is equal to the determinant of the Gram matrix. Okay, this is sort of just an invariant of L. I mean, you can check that changing basis doesn't change the discriminant. Okay, and so you can define a signature as well, sort of in the natural way. Signature of L. So I'll say this in words. Basically, you can take this lattice piece to sort of extend over R, and then you can basically choose another basis such that the Gram matrix looks like something with plus or minus 1 on the diagonal. So we'll call this S plus S minus, where S plus is equal to the number of positive plus ones on diagonal, and S minus is equal to the number of minus 1 on the diagonal. Sort of, maybe I should put this in writing. where we have is it clear what I mean by this, or should I explain a little bit more? I think it's okay. Yeah, it's pretty basic. Okay, so once we have this, what I want to do is I want to sort of refine this discriminant, the invariant of the discriminant a little bit. So specifically, what you can define is instead of just taking a number, you can find sort of a group that carries the same information or more information. So, I mean, what does B do? So B defines a map from L to L star in sort of the normal way. The index of the image is, I mean, you can check discriminant of L. But sort of, I mean, if you're just taking the integer of some subgroup of a group, you might as well actually take the group. So let AL So AL is going to be L star modulo L. Okay. So this thing's actually, I mean, if this thing is equipped with a quadratic form or something sort of similar to a quadratic form. Quadratic form. So how do I define this thing? So what I can do is I can take QL of, okay, so just for the moment, we can embed this inside of L tensored with Q. So QL of U bar, so take some, so take, let's say, for U in L star, sorry, let U bar equal its class inside of L star over L. Class U in L star over L. Okay, then define so B or QL U bar is just equal to U define modulo 2Z. So this will naturally be a rational number since I've sort of embedded this inside of L tensor with Q, and we're extending the bilinear form to this thing. So I mean, we can just sort of just for the sake of you know, imagining this, what we can do is we can imagine that this is actually the V's inside of L tensor with Q, such that VU is in Z for all U in L proper. So once we imagine it this way, we can define the bilinear or this quadratic form like this. So this is kind of, I don't know. I don't know if this is very well motivated at the moment, but the point is that for a lot of cases that we're interested in, so I mean, just recall that I want my lattices to all be even, and I've defined it there. So for all the cases that we're interested in terms of K3 surfaces, this is going to actually be almost enough to classify the lattices themselves, these invariants of signature, rank, and this discriminant form and discriminant lattice. Okay, so this is, so the pair AL QL is called the discriminant lattice. Okay, and so what I was saying before is probably justified by the following theorem. So this is a theorem. If I had to, I'd probably attribute it to Nikulin, but I'm not quite sure. So I'll put so let L be indefinite. By indefinite, I mean that it's neither positive definite nor negative definite. Even. And define, so this little invariant L of AL to be the minimal number of generators of AL. L. So then, for any other lattice L prime, such that, so first of all, the ranks coincide. Second of all, both the AL of, or the discriminant lattices of L and discriminant lattice of L prime are the same up to isomorphism prime. And assume that the signatures are actually the same. So signature. Prime. So then, I mean, the result of this is that the lattices are actually isomorphic. L is isomorphic to L prime. Okay, so these, I'm so sorry. I forgot to put in the most important condition here. So and we have a condition on LAL. I mean, if I don't put this in, there's no reason for having this whole unwieldy definition. And we assume that LAL is less than or equal to the rank of L minus 2. Okay, so that means this is essential. So I mean, the point is that for lattices of small discriminant, sort of small discriminant lattices, these sort of several invariants are enough to actually classify, which is quite nice, since in practice we mainly deal with lattices with sort of small discriminants and small discriminant lattices. Okay, so I guess I'll give some examples now that we've kind of seen already. Maybe I'll just go through some, sort of a little bit of an application of this theorem. So, I mean, just to give a little bit more background that I probably should have given earlier is that essentially what we want to deal with is we want to deal with sublattices of the K3 lattice. And sort of as Alan mentioned yesterday, the K3 lattice is sort of, it can be expressed quite simply in terms of this root lattice E8 and another lattice which we called, I think, H. So, I mean, the Narron-Severi group of a K3 surfaces is going to be a primitive sublattice of this K3 lattice. And sort of dealing with these possible primitive sublattices of the K3 lattice is what sort of, I mean, to my mind at least, it sort of adds a lot of richness to the theory of K3 surfaces. Specifically sort of using this lattice theory to deal with K3 surfaces with higher Picard rank. So, I mean, in general, a K3 surface or an algebraic K3 surface has Picard rank 1, but sort of once we get into sort of higher and higher Picard ranks, you know, we get more and more algebraic cycles on the K3 surface. There's, I mean, you have to start worrying about, you know, how a lattice embeds. Is this a unique embedding? Sort of, what sort of curves come out of this lattice theory, and sort of it's the interplay between the curves on the K3 surface and the lattice theory, which is really fairly interesting. Okay, just as an example. have, so this is called H or U, depending on the author, is given by gram matrix. 0, 1, 1, 0. So this is hyperbolic. By hyperbolic, I mean it's got signature n1 for some n. In this case, the n is 1, and it's also unimodular. So this means discriminant of L is 0, or 1. Sorry, it's equal to plus or minus 1. Okay, so I mean essentially what the discriminant of L equal to plus or minus 1 means is that this is actually, I mean, this means that it's actually isomorphic to its dual via the bilinear form B. And sort of the second possible example is just basically root lattices coming from ADE type Dinkin diagrams. Okay, so 2 root lattices. Let's call this 1. Lattices Rico always used to tell me I should call it a Dinkin-Coxeter diagram. Because Coxeter's Canadian or something? I don't remember. Independent, okay. Okay, so I don't think I need to define that. Okay, so now to sort of something else, we can look at embeddings. And this is sort of getting at the point I was trying to make earlier that lattices. So this is the ADE classification of root lattices, or so AN, DN. Yeah. Sorry. So basically, I want the simply laced ones. Okay. So let F be a map from L0 to L, a map of lattices, or if you like, an embedding. We say that F is a primitive embedding. If the quotient is free, L mod L0 is free, is a free abelian group. Okay. So what we can do now is we can take things like the orthogonal complement of L0 and sort of the goal of this section is to describe how we can build automorphisms of the lattice L coming from automorphisms of L0 and its orthogonal complement. Okay, so then let L1 be, just so I, no, this is going to be confusing. Let L0 perp be its orthogonal complement. The orthogonal complement of L0 in L. So then So we have sort of an injective map which takes L0 plus L0 perp L. This is injective and has finite index. So we have the following proposition about these sorts of things. So prop okay. So if L is unimodular, so remember I said that unimodular means that the discriminant is 1. Then we have the following isomorphisms. Then A of L0 is equal to A of L0 perp. And then we also have a relationship between the QL and Q of L0 perp. But this is sort of not quite so clean. So Q of L0, let's say there's an isomorphism. There's a Q of L0 or minus L0 perp. So we just have to multiply everything by -1 on this side. Let's say it this way. It's L0 perp is an abstract lattice, and so we can take the bilinear form, which is minus or -1 times things in L0 perp. Okay, so we have this isomorphism, and actually this is a very it's a very canonical isomorphism. So we'll give a name to its to the canonical isomorphism. Okay, so this isomorphism is canonically defined, and I gave it a ridiculous name in my notes, but I'll just stick with it. GL L0 or L0L from AL0 to AL0 perp. Or, I mean, what we can do sort of instead of this is we can just say -1 times that, which is essentially the same thing. B, I guess, this isomorphism. Let us call it it. Okay. Okay, so that's nice, but I mean, essentially what we want to do is we want to use this to give conditions under which we can actually sort of glue together automorphisms of L0 and L0 perp into an automorphism of L. So essentially, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I can take an automorphism of L0 and I can take an automorphism of L0 perp, but this doesn't necessarily come from something that actually acts on L itself. I mean, it's sort of subtle, but it can sort of induce some sort of rational action which sends L to something in L to something in L tensor to Q that doesn't actually live inside of L itself. So because L0 plus L0 perp spans one tensor with Q spans L. Yeah. Okay. Noriko wants me to go on. Okay. So a theorem. So I won't give it a name. An automorphism so let's give this a name. So let's call it H0 from L0 to L0. And an automorphism. So let's call it H1 from L0 perp. L0 perp. Produce an automorphism. Okay, so this isn't the important bit. It produces an automorphism like this, and And the conditions under which it actually comes from an automorphism of L itself depend upon sort of this isomorphism that I wrote down, GL0, L. So there is an automorphism. So let's call it H. So H from L to L, such that H restricted to L0 is equal to H0, and H restricted to L0 perp is equal to H1 if and only if so let's see, this is true. So both H1 and H0 will restrict to automorphisms of the discriminant group AL0, which respect QL0, or alternatively AL0 perp that respect QL0 perp. So we want the restrictions to act in the following way. So G L0 L H0 restricted to A L0 is equal to H1 restricted to A L0 perp. Okay, so there's this compatibility condition regarding this isomorphism GL0L. Okay, so as an example, so H0 plus the identity comes from an automorphism of the lattice L if and only if H0 restricts to the identity on AL0. Restricts comes from L. H0 restricts to the identity. Okay. So the point of all this, great. I spent exactly half my talk doing this, right? I started at 10. Sorry? Hurry up, okay. This is on schedule. Enrico was my master's advisor, and when I wrote my master's thesis, there was a part of it, about half of it, that she thought was just interminably boring, which I think is what she's thinking right now. So applications decay through surfaces. Okay, here's the good stuff. So, so from here on, let X be a K through surface. Which is also algebraic. It's algebraic. So the Nernst-Vary group of X is contained inside of H2 of X. So this is equal to H11 of X intersected with H2XZ. This is it's a primitive sublattice, or primitive sublattice. Okay, it's a primitive sublattice, and it has index so let's say 1 rank. Okay, so this is the index of it. And that's just by the index theorem. Okay, so where am I going with this? Okay, just to recall, so H2 of x, z, equipped with the cut product, is isomorphic to the lattice U, so 3 copies of U plus 2 copies of E8. So maybe I'll put the -1 just to be safe here. So basically this means that instead of taking, starting with elements with square 2, they have square minus 2. So I multiply everything by -1 in the description of this lattice. So what we can do is we can describe the Kähler cone of a K3 surface fairly easily just from lattice theory. So and I'm going to have to cheat a little bit, but I can do it. So let ns of x plus be basically the positive elements in the Nernst-Vary lattice. So it's u in ns of x tensored with r, such that u. Whenever I do stuff with K3s, I always write this instead of BUU. So this is. Maybe I'll try to write this here, but if I forget, it means the same thing. Is greater than 0. Okay, and let C of x be a component of this. So this is going to have 2 different components, sort of a positive and a negative cone. And there's going to be, I'm going to take Cx to be a single component of this. So a component of this of nsx plus, which contains an effective class. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to now define a set of positive roots in the Nernst-Vary group. So, oops. So I'm going to define what I'll call delta x plus. So this is basically going to be the set of classes represented by smooth rational curves in the K3 surface. So, terrible. Let delta x plus be the classes. So delta in the Nernst-Vary group, so this is such that delta is equal to the class of C for C, a smooth rational curve. Okay. So this is a smooth rational curve. You can check by the genus formula that these are actually -2 classes, so that the square is -2. Note B delta is equal to -2. And what we can do is we can actually just define from this fairly easily the Kähler cone of x. So this is the cone of classes in the Nernst-Vary group, which are represented by Kähler classes on the K3 surface. So K of x is equal to basically something comes from these 2 things. So it's these. So it's u's in C of x such that bu delta is greater than 0 for all for all delta in delta x plus. Okay, so this isn't too bad. I mean, essentially this is the ampleness criterion sort of disguised a little bit. I mean, I basically want things to have positive self-intersection, or the integral points in this are going to be ample classes. They have positive self-intersection, and so I'm only claiming that they need to be positive on smooth rational curves, but this is actually enough. If you think about it enough, that's enough. to be positive, to have positive intersection with everything on the K3, or all effective classes. Okay. So why am I going through this? So what I can define now, so really what I'm trying to get at here is I'm trying to get at the automorphism, or a bit of the automorphism group of a K3 surface. So the point is that I think last time we discussed the strong Torelli theorem for K3 surfaces, which is going to be sort of an essential tool for this. We're going to, I'll come to it in a little bit, but sort of, there's really something here, and I can sort of give a fairly clean description of most automorphisms on a K3 surface just using the lattice theory that I've already described. Okay, so so W of X, W of X, this is going to be the set, so the subgroup sort of over the orthogonal group of O of N S of X, which is generated by reflections across minus two classes. In Nernst vary of X. Okay, this is the Weil group of X, or the Nernst vary group of X, to be precise. So this is going to act on the cone C of X, or sort of, this cone C of X. And what I want to do is sort of break this into, basically, I want to find a fundamental domain, and sort of secretly I've already got one kicking around here. There's a lot of brushes here, and that's really good. So K of X is a fundamental domain for the action of the Weil group on C of X. Of C of X. So, the Weil group obviously preserves the cone C of X because it's not going to take a, something with positive square to something with negative square. And it's going to, -1 isn't in the Weil group. So it won't exchange the two cones. Okay, so then we have, so this takes a little bit of work. So this is actually going to be semidirect product of something with the Weil group. So the Weil group of X, semidirect product with G of X for some group G. G of X. So, morally what G of X is, so G of X is more or less the symmetries of the Kähler cone of X. So this is kind of, take it with a grain of salt. But what we can do now is we can define some sort of subgroup of G of X. And this subgroup, this sort of finite index subgroup, is going to be, the essential bit of the automorphism group of X. So it's kind of long-winded, but I'm more or less getting to the structure of the automorphism group of a K3 surface, of an algebraic K3 surface. Okay, so let GO of X be defined kernel. Okay, so this map here. So G of X, this is a subgroup of the orthogonal group of the Nernst-Berry group. So this maps into the automorphism group of Nernst-Berry. And so this actually maps also onto the automorphism groups of A Nernst X. So this is going to fix the Nernst-Berry group of X, and it's also going to send, or not fix, but send it to itself, and it's going to send the dual of the Nernst-Berry group back to the dual. So this is the kernel of this. Here. So this is the kernel. Then the theorem is, or the proposition is, let's call it. So G of X, GO of X, embeds inside the automorphism group X. And let's say this, GO of X is finite if and only if. Okay, so I'll prove the first part of this theorem because it's easy and actually uses the lattice theory that I did before. And if I don't do that, it's kind of not worth anything. I should have done that. So, because I could have, well, I don't think I could have quite started at a halfway point. So, just for the proof recall, strong growing. Let X and X prime be K3 surfaces, the algebraic K3 surfaces. Let phi from H2 of X to H2 of X prime be a quadrate isometry so which takes a pseudo-animal class X to a pseudo-animal class in X prime or H2X. And then there exists a unique isomorphism which actually introduces this multi-isomorphism. A unique aside from pullback of psi on structures is actually equal to so basically the point is that under these conditions we can actually induce automorphisms of the K3 or isomorphisms of two K3s just by using the hot structure. So the point is that the condition that it takes a pseudo-alpha class to a pseudo-alpha class is sort of a disguised version of the fact that it has to take the Kähler cone of one K3 to the Kähler cone of the other K3. I mean, if it does this, then we pick any integral class in the first K3 and any integral class in the second K3 scale, and we go after one another. So we sort of stand in for the pseudo-alpha classes in the theorem. So what I want to do now is explain how elements of GO of X can be used to construct automorphisms of K3s. And I think that's probably going to be, well, it's the end. So basically the point is that if G is in G of X, G restricted to A and S of X is the identity. Thus, G is the identity, so the identity on T of X, which is, I guess, something having fun. This is the Nernst variables perpendicular, or the complement of the Nernst variable. This actually is going to, since by a previous theorem that I think I did not get before, but by a previous theorem, this actually is going to extend to an automorphism of H2 of X. Extends to an automorphism. And furthermore, so let's give this automorphism a name. It's called H. So we're going to H restricted to Nernst variable G. So by construction, G is going to preserve the Kähler cone. Preserves Kähler cone. Right? And H restricted to transcendental lattice is the identity. Since the transcendental lattice is the orthogonal of the Nernst variable, and H02 of X lives inside the transcendental lattice. This actually acts as the identity on the H02 of X. So this means it actually acts as the identity on sort of period points. Period point X. So So this means that it actually extends to a hot isometry of X. So, or of H2 of X. So therefore, H scale of X. KX, and H is preserves hot structure. So now pod structures. And sort of as I tried to explain before, since it maps k of x, we can choose any, say, pseudo-ample class of k of x. It's going to go into another pseudo-ample class of k of x. So we can use those two pseudo-ample classes to produce pseudo-ample classes within the Strong-Torelli theorem, which actually means, I mean, by this theorem, there's actually a unique automorphism, a map from x to x, which produces this this hypothetical. Thus, there's this unique side x permanent. So I should put which restricts which satisfies so this produces our injection of the group G0 of x into the so I have 5 more minutes. I think in my notes this means I've started the topic since I got to the end of this. So I can either just stop here or 5 minutes and stop at the point. I can sort of. Sure. I'll write down the videos. So, I mean, the K3 surface. And then after more these fibers are connected, then these fibers actually have to be elliptic curves. So this is an elliptic vibration on the K3. And the point is that elliptic vibrations can be detected via Lattice. So, elliptic vibrations. Okay, so let x Q1 vibration and its fibers are connected generically. Smooth connected curves. So it's called a pi. And pi minus 1 is the curve of, say, a point. Then when we intersect this with itself, it's actually going to be 0 just by doing the form of the curve again. So, therefore, the Biogenesis formula for curves on the surface, genus formula. Genus, the preimage of a point is 1 here. So that's fairly standard. The point is that we can actually go backwards. So this is going to be an element in the Narrowing group of X with square 0. And the point is, the point that I want to make is that we can sort of make the converse is true. If we have inside the Narrowing group of X something with square 0, we can actually produce an elliptic vibration from this. So firstly, if there exists sort of some 0 inside the Narrowing group of X, then X admits and mu squared is equal to 0. So square, I mean just taking the self-intersection. Mu squared is equal to 0, then there exists elliptic vibration. So such a structure is called an elliptic vibration of X. There exists an elliptic vibration on X. Okay. So, I mean, this isn't exactly a simple thing to prove. So I think there's a similar theorem proved in this sort of classic paper, Lattice Chaparevich. So, and as an extension, an elliptic vibration is called Jacobian vibration. If pi is an intersection, pi x to p1 at an intersection. So sometimes we just call the vibration sort of the generic vibrations with fibers elliptic curve. We call them James Bond vibrations. And sometimes this is called just an elliptic vibration. Here. So then the image of the section. Genus 0, hence let's call this the image of this section O. Hence that's bad. It's just S, big S. The class of big S has square equal to -2 by the same genus going to occurs on surface. And so it actually intersects. So we can check that pi1, the class of this one side intersect with class of S. This is actually 1, just because this is a section, and there are fibers. So this is true, and this means that we actually get an embedding of the lattice H inside of the Semidirect of X. Thus, the lattice, so 0, 1, 1, 2, then inside Semidirect of X. You can check that this is actually isomorphic of H. Plus, say L is isomorphic of H. As I defined it earlier, it's not very hard to see. And finally, so there's a theorem. Example 1. If H embeds inside the Semidirect of X, then X emits a Jacobian vibration.
It's not the same age.
It's not the same age. Oh, sure. I gave them the same name, but I can probably emits a Jacobian vibration. And so, since this is actually a unimodular lattice, it's very easy to work with. We can actually detect embedding with this thing very easy, just via lattice theory. So the point of my talk is basically that lattices are nice and interesting. They can be used to prove very concrete results like Euclid surfaces. Thanks.
Any comments, any questions? everything is clear? Okay, so everything is clear. Okay, so we'll have a 10 minutes break, and then start hold on. Who's the one? Oh yeah, oh yeah, so we have a workshop dinner, so because everybody worked so hard, at 6 o'clock. Write down the address, EPAN, that's the name of the place.
So what I'm also going to suggest is that it's not far from here, so if everyone meets there at 5:50, you can walk over there. Like, it's not even a 10-minute walk, but if we meet in the piano area at 5:50, we'll walk over there. That's what I'm saying.
And then what you have to do is you have to bring your own drinks if you want to drink. Okay?
Because, I mean, so each one is here, they do some so it's finite abstraction. So the other one is so something actually.
You better go and get your picture taken. Yes.
I'm not going to get this much. Oh, that's great. I guess I can actually put it lots more. I need to cook sure, of course. It's hard to find 420 they're just like, here's the case and by the top and the figure. Yeah.